Hi guys, this is Valentina Palladino for Ars Technica, and today I'm here with one of Garmin's newest devices. This is the Fenix 5S. So this is the newest version in the Fenix line. The oldest model that we have before this was the Fenix 3, so there was no Fenix 4 in between there. You're not missing anything. But the Fenix 5 line is Garmin's newest addition to the Fenix line, and the Fenix line is one of its most expensive fitness tracker families. So this device is $600, so it's not cheap, but you're getting a lot of features with it. It pretty much tracks everything that you'd ever want to track. It has an onboard GPS, an onboard heart rate monitor. It can connect to a third-party chest strap. It gets smartphone notifications. So I've been spending a little bit of time with this guy, and I'm going to tell you some of the good things and the bad things about the Fenix 5. So the first good thing about the Fenix 5 is the updated design. So at a glance, it doesn't really look that much different than the Fenix 3, and I do have a Fenix 3 here to show you. As you can see, this is much bigger than this one that I have on my wrist. So really the design that I'm talking about is the fact that Garmin made 3 different case sizes of the Fenix 5, whereas with the Fenix 3, you could only get it in this size. And this is a 51mm case. Now you can get a Fenix 5, which is called the Fenix 5X, in a 51mm case. And then there is the regular just Fenix 5, and that's a 47mm case. And then the one that I have on my wrist is the Fenix 5S, which is a 42mm case, I believe. So this is the smallest one that you can get. And I have to admit that this is probably the best one for my wrist, since my wrist is pretty small. Garmin wasn't shy about the fact that the smaller case sizes will appeal to female users or people with smaller wrists, and they're definitely better than this thing was on my wrist. So another cool update to the design of the Fenix 5 are these quick release bands. So what you do is you see this little kind of oval here, you just pull back and release the band, and it works on the other end of it too. Most other fitness trackers, if they have bands like these, they'll have little pins. You have to pull back and then push out the bands, and then you can interchange them. But this I found is actually really easy, and then you just kind of pull it back and snap it back on. So this I have is just kind of the sport band that's silicone and soft touch. But you can get metal bands and you can get leather bands as well. Another great thing about the Fenix 5 line is all of the activities that you can track. So it has these physical buttons on the side, and they pretty much do the exact same things as the Fenix 3 did. And then when you press this button, it kind of opens up this really big library of activities that you can track, and you can add to or remove from them depending on the activities that you do most frequently. And since this guy has a barometer, an altimeter, an onboard GPS, and GLONASS, an onboard accelerometer, and a heart rate monitor, you can kind of get everything that you want to track through this device. And it's also waterproof, so you can take it swimming. It tracks swimming both indoor and outdoor. It tracks things like stand-up paddle boarding, and then just regular things like running and treadmill running, walking, biking, both indoor and outdoor. So you really have a lot of freedom with what you can do with this. You have every single option that you'd want on this device, and you can also even create your own activity profiles, which is a really great addition. Directly on the watch, you can add and name different activity categories, and you can change what sensors are involved, what you want to track, what will show up on the display while you're tracking it. And so you really have so many options, and when you're paying $600, you kind of expect that level of customization. Another great thing about the Fenix 5 is something that I've admired about Garmin products for a while, particularly the high-end products, is that Garmin has really put a lot of effort into making the onboard UI on the watch really easy to use. And I think with these physical buttons, it really helps with that. But basically, you know, when you're going with a smartwatch, you really have the Apple Watch or Android Wear right now. Those are the 2 big players. But if you're someone who's super into fitness, Garmin has really done a great job of making its devices not just fitness watches, but also smartwatches. So this does get, you know, all of your smartphone notifications to it. You can't really reply to any of the messages or anything like that, so there is some limitation there. But everything that you'd want to see if you are a fitness buff and you are going to be wearing this all day long is there. And there are also little widgets that you can add for, you know, your daily step count, the last time you ran, the last sport that you recorded. So while this is technically not a smartwatch in the traditional sense like the Apple Watch or any Android Wear watch would be considered, it is a really good alternative, particularly if you are someone who's super into fitness and that is a huge part of your life. So now onto the not so great things about the Fenix 5S. This is just my experience, but with this device, the heart rate monitor wasn't up to snuff. It wasn't as good as some other Garmin devices that I've used. So a lot of the time it was very strange. It would kind of be about 20 BPM, either above or below what a chest strap that I was wearing was reading. I use the Polar H7 chest strap when I'm testing these types of devices, and when I was using it, it would be kind of all over the place a lot of the time. Either when I was doing strength training exercises or when I was running or doing something on the treadmill. And I contacted Garmin about this. They said that, with strength training exercises, it's going to be a little bit more difficult just because the movements are so out of the ordinary. It's not just kind of you're going like this with your arm when you're running. And they are doing things to improve that, to kind of minimize any room for error. But a lot of the time it did happen when I was running or on the treadmill. And there's no real explanation for that right now. It might just be a fluke with my device, at least that's what Garmin has told me. And if that's the case, be sure to read the full review on Ars Technica, because all of those updates about the heart rate monitor will be in there. Sometimes it would kind of level out to about 2 to 4 BPM within the chest straps reading. So it wasn't always inaccurate, but when it was inaccurate, it was pretty off. Another not so great thing about the Fenix 5S is just something that's not so great about Garmin's devices in general, and that's Garmin Connect. There have been a few kind of UI improvements over time with the Android and iOS apps for Garmin Connect, but overall I just think that it's a little bit too scatterbrained, a little bit too all over the place, especially when you compare it to other apps like Fitbit. The streamlined information has gotten a little bit better, but it's not as good as it could be. Finding certain bits of information, especially if you're into the kind of granular details of your workout, can be a little bit difficult. And also you kind of don't know what settings you can change in the app versus on the watch, depending on the type of device that you have. For example, with the Fenix 5S, you can change a lot of settings for all of your activity tracking and things like that directly on the watch. And there are certain things that you can't change within Garmin Connect, even though you might think you'd be able to do that, but it's not necessarily the case. So another issue that I had with this, which wasn't as big of an issue as it has been in the past for Garmin devices, is that it took a couple of times with swiping down on the app screen to get this to sync all the most recent data to the app. It certainly hasn't been as bad as it has been in the past. Maybe it took me about 3 or 4 times to kind of swipe down, and then the data would upload fairly quickly. But in the past, it's been really bad where the Garmin has had some syncing problems with its devices. So it has been improved, but it's still not perfect yet. So the final not so great thing about the Fenix 5S is the price. This is a $600 device, and depending on the kind of finishes you might get, it might be a little bit over $600. And it's really for a specific type of person. And I have no problem saying that this device, the Fenix 5S, isn't necessarily for me. And not because I don't like it, but only because everything that I do on a regular basis with my fitness regime could be satisfied with a less expensive device. I don't really need everything that's packed into the $600 device, even though it's all extremely useful, provided that the heart rate monitor isn't as inaccurate as I've been experiencing. I'm hoping that's just a fluke, but if you are someone who spends a big portion of their life doing fitness things, this would be a really great device to get.